Welcome to the Channel Surfers, where it's just two channel guys riding the waves and trying to help you navigate what's changing in partnerships without getting crushed along the way. I'm John McCabe, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and good friend, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, John. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Can't complain. Today we're talking about something that's coming fast. Agentic AI in the partner motion.
Yeah,
And, we've talked a lot about AI on the show, but I think this is different. Not AI that helps you just write an email, AI that actually takes action, right?
absolutely. And first of all, I mean, to say it's coming fast is almost an understatement, right?
Yeah.
I have to catch myself. Probably going to start doing AI volumes at some point to kind of just keep myself calm and level headed. But I mean, look, you've got, first of all, you've got standalone solutions that are happening. I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, we've had an opportunity over the last, I'll say 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks to take a look at people building solutions that are using AI to help people be better. Everything
Yeah.
from, doing better partner scoring, opportunity surfacing,
Yeah.
deal routing, those types of
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
driving the onboarding workflows to help partnerships get more acclimated, right? So you can do enablement faster. I just think what's interesting is you're going to start to see a lot of, as again, as the AI learns and it becomes more intuitive, it's going to start to move more towards some autonomous execution on that back end. I just think,
Mhm.
you still need a human. I mean, we keep talking about that. And again, just taking a half step back, we have talked a lot about AI. I made a note just because I didn't want to not remember it, but we've talked about AI on episodes going back to like 19, 41, 44,
Right. Right.
55. And then we've peppered it into a handful of other episodes. But I think what really kind of stood out when we were talking about what would be, a good way to pivot to our next episode after the last one we did was to really get people to understand it's not just another AI episode here. Things are happening and they're happening pretty quickly, but there are some things that are improving. Like I'm
Yeah.
just, and we're going to talk about a couple of the solutions that we've seen, but I just think that people starting to understand that the opportunity that exists right now to enhance and speed up some of the workflow things um, could be incredibly beneficial, especially for some of these smaller companies looking to drive a channel and build out a channel.
Yeah. It's kind of a shift from AI assists to AI does or acts, right?
Yeah.
Which is really the way a lot of things are going these days with the agentic. All right, well let's get started on this and let's keep it really simple. What is the difference between the AI we've been using and what we're calling now agentic AI? Because I think a lot of people who might be listening might not understand the difference.
So we'll kind of break it into a couple categories, and again, we could probably break them into a lot of categories, but I think you've got what I'll call assistive AI, right, which helps you do things faster, right? It'll help you do drafts, summarize things, give you suggestions. So I think you've got this assistive kind of AI piece.
Hmm.
Then you've got the agentic AI, right, which is all about being able to take action. So it's kind of walking through a process, right? So
Hmm.
it's giving you actions without you telling it to do things, which can be super super helpful because it allows you to start working at a much better velocity, but also
Yeah.
with a higher level of accuracy.
No, I think that's a great definition, and I think agentic AI is just like like jumped on the scene over the past year or less, and it's for those trying to figure out what AI is all about. An agentic AI is like building an agent that will do the work for you, be one of your employees or be your executive assistant or do things like, from a security standpoint. And, it's basically tweaked and you can hone in on its skills by prompting it properly or setting up the profile for that agent so it does exactly what you're looking to do. Now, we're not saying this is something you should do to be, cause disruption. I think it's something you need to look at because when you're doing your job, having somebody that can maybe look at your schedule and actually organize it for you on a weekly basis, or help with deal registration and like evaluating what's going on in your PRM, or doing things that you might do on a daily basis or a weekly basis. The agentic AI is set up to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's going to put more autonomy into the actual partner motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I think can be helpful. And it's not that, it's, you gotta be, I feel like we're tiptoeing here, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not looking to necessarily replace people, but you're trying to make the people that are in place be better, be more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn means that maybe you don't need as many people, and I thought, the interview we did with David Levine, and he talked about, the whole, I think it was the typewriter analogy, right? And,
Yeah, great analogy.
yeah, and you had steno pools and a typewriter came in and they're like, nope, nope, nope. We're going to go to this path, or even, horseless carriages back in the day. At some point it's going to come in to make things better, and it's going to cause a shift, and there's going to be people screaming doom and gloom. And I get that. And maybe it is, maybe it will be. I don't think so, but it is going to change the way we work. It is going to change the way that you engage in how you work. I mean, you can already see the autonomy showing up today in a lot of things. I mean, all you got to do is go on to social media and you download some of the Claude things, for example, and N8N and Lovable, and people are building out these autonomous approaches where it's allowing them to do things. I saw one the other day where this engine had been built out, and it was averaging, I think, 200 help desk conversation, could up to 200 help desk conversations a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, like I'm saying, super complex, but that was just one analogy. Where I think we want to focus here is, where do we see this really kind of leaning into the partnership piece, to helping the partners,
Yeah.
helping channel, helping with that motion, right? So that, again, we're being more accurate. I'm going to share, I'll just throw this out there. Another thing with David, I think it was David that said it. It's like, humans will go and follow up, and then by human nature, they hate rejection, right? They kind of tail off. Where an autonomous follow up will just keep following up,
Keep
and will,
going, keep going and going. Yeah. Yeah.
it'll keep going, but it'll also, with the agentic piece, it can also augment to tweak its follow up, right? So that it's not being too pushy, but it will keep following up. I mean, I think, doing certain things and having that push, there's that, what's that old saying? Being persistent or, pushy. I mean, it's a fine line, but, you have to find a way to do that and still, keep that relationship fresh, so to speak.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, that kind of begs the question, like, how is this, how is this helping partners? Like how would it help,
Hmm.
your everyday activity, and I think, like we said before, all those repetitive tasks, like if you're trying to get get in front of partner reps, and you're new to the program and you're new to the company, and your product isn't a known entity, this could help with setting up an agent to go out and send out the email sequencing and get them to come to a meeting for it, with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, I mean, the channel has gotten more complex. They're, and a big thing with you and I is we like to choose favorites, right?
Mhm.
Choose a few primary favorites, whatever you want to call it, to focus on, to drive the business, so that you don't spread yourself too thin. And I do see where, with the advent of AI, and it isn't random. I mean, it's coming, but partnerships have gotten more complex. So that's why we want to do, focus partners and have a
Mhm.
few. But AI is also allowing you to be able to expand that focus to a handful more, possibly, right? So where we might be, capping at 5 to 7, with the advent of AI, maybe I can get away with 12 to 15 and do it effectively, because I think that's the key. Being able to do, and have a good channel motion and good follow through and good execution, that is the key. And if you go too wide, you lose that, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So, like, Where is where is it showing up now the most? We've been
Well,
researching this a lot. Like, where do you see it showing up the most? I can tell you where I feel it's showing up the most. PRMs. That's where I see it showing up the most.
well, it's shown up in PRM and CRMs. I mean, look
Mm-hmm.
at Salesforce Einstein. You look at HubSpot, right? The
Mm-hmm.
CRMs, and then you've got you're the PRM guy, right? I'll give you credit there. I mean, you're the guy looking at the PRMs, absolutely, and because they have to, it has to be there. So I guess the question, John, is is it by doing this, they are trying to do more with less. Remember that
Yeah.
saying back in the day, right? We're all trying to do more with less. I think this gives us the ability to actually not only do more with less, but I keep using the word being effective, being able to execute. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I see it in the CRMs. I see it in outreach. I see it in a handful of these apps that we've talked to. I mean, I think we have a follow-up call scheduled, but you've got oh my god, my mind's going blank. What is it? The
Apollo.
partners. What's that?
Did you say Apollo?
Apollo is using AI, absolutely, which is helping with outreach and the SDR stuff, right? And even BDR, but it's
Mm-hmm.
helping both from a sales and a channel perspective. But you've got and I couldn't think of the name for a second. Why I don't know, but like Quark AI, you got Partner Assist AI that's out there that are specific solutions to solve a problem. And if you remember when we are doing the Quark podcast, you know, that solution wouldn't have existed 5 years ago because it really needs to have the AI to be able to grab the massive amount of data
Yeah.
points.
How would you do that manually?
But that was just it. I don't, I mean, to his point, you couldn't do it because it just there was no way to crunch that stuff. There was no system. There was no process. I mean, granted, you have SQL and Oracle as databases, but you still needed something to be able to help you rationalize the data out of that.
Yeah.
That was to me that was always the biggest challenge. But I'm seeing a lot like one of our favorites is from a PRM is Intro, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Intro is doing some amazing things. I know they announced their Claude partnership, so it's native. I think In Partners coming along, they're doing some
Yep.
things.
Zinfi.
What's that?
Zinfi. Zinfi.
Zinfi. And it's funny. I didn't think of them as a PRM until we sat through that call last week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I just, and to his credit, I mean, done an amazing job. Right. I mean, just it's crazy if you're not watching it and these things are going on because you have all these amazing people, super smart, have been in the business for years, and they're applying it. I mean, you and
Yeah.
I, and I'm again giving you credit here. I mean, we were, I believe it came out of, you can even talk about it, right? But it came out of a podcast, us talking about it a couple different times. And it's like, hey, you want to have a solution that allows you to go out and be that co-pilot for building a program design and helping with the knowledge management and
Mm-hmm.
helping drive strategy guidance. And we call that solution PartnerBot. But it's a very tactically focused approach to help, channel people. And I think even salespeople to get better engaged with how they're going to take that stuff to market and what they're going to do.
Like for an example, like building a QBR deck or putting together a alliance or partner playbook that you can take out and utilize. Those are things like I think you and I both in the past have had to do manually, and it takes time and it's exasperating, and it's just something you don't really want to do. It's like pulling teeth, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you have a tool that can help get that done, you input the data and it spits out the really nice, professionally polished, presentation, makes your job easier, right? And you look good because you have good information to present.
Absolutely. Well, and there's some systems, solutions that have been around for a while that are actually pushing with a little bit more AI. I think Clary, I saw something with them, and they help with the revenue intelligence piece. I just mine just went blank. But Patrick talks about Clay a lot. Clay, which if you're not familiar with it, right? If you're able to get into some of the development piece around N8N or even Lovable, but if you use Clay's all about data enrichment and helping you build out the workflows with agents. So it's a workflow builder for agents or with agents. But my point is, it allows you to start to extend yourself to be more productive, to do more, to do a lot more. But, and again, I keep saying this, execution and accuracy, I think are key. And then you've got some other solutions. Like I said, I think it was the what was that one? The partner. Oh, my mind just went blank again. What was the partner assist AI? Like I watched the online demo of that one. I thought that was, and again, I think he's hyper focused. He's focused on the hyperscalers, but again, they have a unique set of needs. And I just see more and more people bringing out their solutions to fill that need, to help with the executions so that people can be better.
Yeah, no, I vaguely recall the partner assist, but I know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, what do you really think is a great use case for someone who's listening to this to apply, right? An AI component or AI tool to what they're doing.
That's a good question. So I think there's probably 2 or 3 really good use cases, or obviously there's probably more. I would say probably the first one is going to be the understanding of your deal routing, partner matching type of approach, right? Like understanding how you're aligning the opportunities that are coming in and ensuring that stuff is being tracked. I think AI helps with that piece. It also helps with the note taking to make sure it feeds back so that you're getting the appropriate deal routing, so you know where things sit. And I almost could combine in the partner scoring with the partner matching piece, because they kind of go together. And I know we looked at ScorePad. Was it ScorePad? The one solution about the partner scoring and setting up the tiering of the partners.
Yes, is ScorePath.
Okay. ScorePath. Thank you, man. But I see that kind of blending in with the partner matching piece. I definitely think it's going to help enhance and drive the onboarding and the activation. So, I think it's critical when you're signing a new partner or getting a new partnership going. It's all about the customer service. It's all about the, dotting I's, crossing T's, making sure that you can get through that, getting a partner sign up, making sure that you're tracking everything, making sure that you're communicating, making sure that you're getting them the information they need so that it aligns with their go-to-market. That's critical. So
I agree.
What are your thoughts?
I think partner scoring is an interesting concept, and I get the idea of doing that and trying to zone in on the right partner to, uncover opportunities and do business with, right? I think in a way that's really something that's a tool that you would utilize if you're like brand new vendor, don't know the industry resellers and can't understand how to operate. I find that tool to be less useful for me because I know those industry resellers. I know how they operate and know how to transact. But it can be a useful tool for someone who's starting out and trying to figure things out, because like Quark, for example. Quark is probably a very interesting technology because it helps you understand how you're doing with the channel and where your success and where your failures are, and kind of like utilizing that information to get better at your program, right?
Yep.
And I think those are more useful from an AI, agentic AI, or even like a assistive AI standpoint.
Sorry, I had to take a drink there, man. Holy cow. No, I agree. I think Quark was kind of cool. I know we've already had him on, but I mean, there's a couple of people that we've talked about this. I'd love to bring on in about 6 months to a year, because I really think there's going to be some cool stuff that starts to happen with some of these solutions that we've looked at, right? But to your point, I think being able to crunch around the partner alignment, partner scoring, even opportunity scoring. We've talked about that on previous episodes. I don't want to get in, too far down the rabbit hole on that, but I definitely see it as being able to build those things out. One of the cool things, I've only seen it one other place, outside of PartnerBot, which
Mhm.
is the QBR piece, being able
Mhm.
to help automate the QBR process, identify and track and automate some of that process so
Yeah.
that you have consistent actions and follow through with your partner. And the whole point is, just like I said, like you want to hold yourself accountable. So, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
here's the things we're doing. Let's track to it. It's not,
I,
it's
I
not that
think
difficult.
I think the differences I've seen, it's not generating a QBR document. It's, I think, gathering the data that's appropriate for your QBR
Hmm.
versus what PartnerBot's doing is you're inputting the data and creating the presentation. Whereas some of these other ones I feel like are just kind of pulling data and justifying, the talk track and the matrix that you present to your partner. And I could be wrong. Some of them might be doing the same thing, but like Zinfi, for example, their QBR generator really kind of looks and analyzes all the information that's all the data from the relationship
Yeah.
and kind of spits out
Hmm.
like an analysis for you.
Damn. No, it's that's really interesting. You know, it's funny because it comes back to we talk about near bound and selling, right? And trust. I think the hardest part, John, is, as you leaning into these different things, right? And the risk that nobody seems to really talk about is, you gotta, first of all, you gotta be honest with what you're doing with
Mhm.
yourself and the people you're working with and your clients. People you're working with and your clients. But you got to use it to make sure you're building credibility, right? So if we can ensure that we're doing that, I mean, I think a big issue is a
Mhm.
lot of people skip a step, right? If the agent makes a bad call or you do something, right,
Yeah,
that
the
damage is
risk.
real. It's almost, it doesn't matter. It's like a person did it. So having a plan in place to make sure that you have guardrails, God, there it is again, is going to be
I
helpful,
agree.
right?
I mean, there's risk in everything you do. There's probably more risk with AI because of what you just highlighted. Like it could, what do they call it? Hallucinate and give you wrong information. And you're relying on like AI knows what it's doing. And it could give you very bad information and make you look bad or cause
Oh,
something to
without
happen
a
for the
doubt,
company, like,
without a doubt.
a deal lost because of it. So you got to be very careful. Don't be afraid of risk, but be cautious and police your AI a little bit. Don't just rely on it being the answer. You know.
So, what would be the top three areas that you, and again, it could be three, it could be four, but I mean, just from our conversations, we've talked about this a handful of times, and I don't want it to necessarily be another an AI episode, everybody. But I think looking at what's happening with Agentic, there's some
Mhm.
things you want to look at, and the risk areas, right? We talk about guardrails, we talk about governance, and figuring that out, and that's your risk, right? What are some of the areas that people need to think about or focus on if as they look at this
Well, I'd
from
say
your
number
perspective?
one is utilizing agentic AI to help kind of streamline your job and help you do your job smarter, not harder, right? I have agents set up to look at my schedule for the week and give me a summary of every meeting, reference emails that I might have, sent prior to the meeting and topics that we're talking about, and have it when
Hmm.
I get to that meeting, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about, right? That's number one. I think using it to
Right.
maybe reorganize what you're doing. Like I've used, you and I both have used uh, Claude to like reorganize our filing structure, right? And keeping it that way because it's important. Like I need to find documents that relate to what I'm doing for my job, and sometimes they're in my download, and I got to scroll forever. But having it all organized and put into folders that I can go reference easily, I think that's important too. And I think lastly, what I think is the third
Yeah.
most important one is your ability to utilize the agentic AI to prospect or help you communicate more frequently and on a scheduled basis with partners or prospects, right? And I think that's something you need to build into a channel program is
I
how do you
like that.
communicate with your reps? How do you communicate with the partner reps, and how are they
Yeah.
reacting to it, right? And we use some sequencing right now and what we're doing, and I can tell you it's worked. I've gotten meetings. People are responsive. Some see through the AI, some don't. But the bottom line is we're getting conversations and setting up meetings.
No, I agree, man. That's awesome, though. And I did like that. I like the flow. It's what's kind of interesting is when I think about the risks, it's going to come down to 3 or 4, like, I think, critical areas, right? And it's one is going to be, first and foremost, is data quality, right? Because, pardon my French, everybody, but shit in or garbage in is going to be garbage out. I mean, that
Nope.
has not
Nope.
changed in my entire career, right? And then I think, having trust, right? Having trust in the
Mhm.
sellers, having trust in the process. If when people don't trust the process or trust the seller, like, if you don't trust the seller, deal's not going to happen. And if you don't trust the process, then you're not going to lean into it. So that's going to be a challenge. I do think a big contributor is also going to be, that the incentive piece, right? And we have a sponsor for a couple of our shows. I mean, having incentives, look, compensation drives habit. So making sure that you've got the right comp, you've got the right incentives,
Yeah.
incentives aligned, so that people know what
Mhm.
they're trying to do
Mhm.
and how they're going to come on the back end. And then last, is, again, our tried and true stuff, because of the business we work
Mhm.
in, is security and compliance, right? Make sure you know what the people are touching and what the agents are touching. I call it the 3 Ps, right? You got people, permission, and privacy, right? The 3 Ps. It's pretty simple. Know who's touching it, know what the permissions of what's touching, and then also know the data that it's touching, the privacy. Can't go wrong. And I think with that, I don't care if it's
Yeah.
straight up AI or agentic. You're going to be I think you'll be in a better place. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but talking with a handful of the people we've talked to with their solutions, that's something that has jumped out at me. They're all using those 4 pillars as, the guide to what they're doing
Yeah.
with their
No, that's
solutions, in
great.
my opinion.
So we're kind of coming up against the end here, and I love your 3 Ps. You always have threes, something. So let me kind of summarize the takeaway of what we talked about. Right, agentic AI is not
Yep.
replacing partner teams. There's got to be a human element in channel. It can replace mundane tasks and speed up what you're doing, but it's not going to replace you as a channel manager, channel leader. Right.
Right.
Um, it replaces friction, but I think it only works if your fundamentals are solid, clean definitions, clean data, clear rules of engagement, and incentives aligned, like you just said. But you really have to make sure you are prompting the AI properly, and you're also policing it. Those are my 2 Ps: prompting and policing.
Mm. Ooh. Well, no, I think that's, you're right. I mean, and the policing is that compliance, guardrails, governance. No, 100%, man. Um, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think that is, to me, that's a big takeaway, right? And I think understanding that, it's not going away. When I went out, I was trying to find the thing, I wrote it down, but the amount of solutions that are driving, and impacting the partner motion,
Yeah.
it's crazy, and everybody's using it. And like I said, I mean, you've got InPartner, you got
Mind
Channeltivity, you got
Matrix,
Salesforce, you got HubSpot.
Extreme, I think.
My
Yeah.
Matrix is another one. And but they're all impacting, how do we make it better? How do we make it improve? I probably need to go back. I was playing around a lot with the product Zapier, because it would do the connections, but I ended up straying away from that because I found ways to get it done without going through that. And then I kind of find that I'm slowly
Mhm.
falling back into that pattern. But at the same time, I've had to pull back and be like, okay, sometimes there's enough education. Sometimes you just got to go do
That's
the
it.
work, right? So it's that whole crawl, walk, run. philosophy, right? So is it ever going to be perfect? No. Is the AI evolving? 1,000%. But finding a starting point and getting engaged
Mm-hmm.
and doing it and starting, crawl, right? Figure out where can you implement something that's going to help you do something better, do something faster. And especially if it's
Yeah, for
repetitive,
sure.
it's the busy shit. No offense, right? And then you get into your walking, right? Find out where the autonomous pieces can help you. Find out what the constraints are. And and there's probably more into that, but that whole walking stage, right? Figuring out where are you, do you have errors in your process? I mean, I found that interesting as I was trying to play out a couple of things to build out some workflows. I started realizing that my process was a little flawed, so I had to go back and kind of tweak it because it worked when I was doing things manually because I was flexible in it. But if I wanted to do things on a more repetitive basis, I had to become a little bit more strict in
Mm-hmm.
how I wanted things to engage. And then I think the run is where, gosh, I think, that's where I think the hype is. With all due respect, I think that's where everybody's acting like, oh, just get in and do this, and then boom, and 60 days you're gonna have this. No, it could take
Yeah.
could take 3 months, could take 6 months. I mean, you're still building your business. It's just helping you do it more effectively, but you still have to go do it. You
Yeah,
still
I
got to
agree.
do the
I
work.
agree.
I hate to say it.
Well, I tell you, one thing I wanted to acknowledge, and we should have done it earlier, but wanted to acknowledge our sponsor, Extreme, who I'm sure has some AI built into their tool. But Extreme is basically a payment platform for partnerships. If you have a program where you spend, give out spiff money or MDF funds, Extreme helps automate that. And let's just keep on the theme of the show, makes your life easier, right? Um, it's an amazing tool. And
Yep.
if you have any interest in seeing more about it, just go to extreme.com. It's xtrm.com, and they can help you understand how to implement that into an integration into your PRM. So when the deal closes, you automatically go out and pay the reps their spiff that they're owed, right? And what does that equate to? A happy partner who wants to do more business with you. So check out Extreme, amazing platform,
Amen.
and we're very happy to be sponsored by them. So
Extreme.
xtrm.com. So
xtrm.com.
with that, another good show. And, Jeff, I want to thank you for being a part of it. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, you can get us on our website, www.channelsurfers.com. There's a contact us form. Feel free to, fill that out and reach out to us. You can also get us on our emails, john@channelsurfers.com, jeff@channelsurfers.com. And then we also have our LinkedIn page where we post every new episode on Tuesdays, and it's chock full of information and great videos that Jeff puts together, which highlight the show and kind of give you a little snippet of what you could expect. And then go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh, I'm just go ahead. I had
Go
three
ahead.
things
You
I was going to say at the
go
end.
for
I
it.
just wanted to remind you, man. So because we talked about this, so I went, and I'm going to just be completely transparent with the audience. So this was a little bit of playing around with some perplexity, computer perplexity, and a little bit of Claude. But what's interesting, so here's, I'll give it my three. My three are the three predictions. And here's what I'm kind of seeing for the partner world. I'm kind of seeing partner orgs start to go into more. They're going to probably start having to hire, and I'm saying this because I know of somebody that's already doing it, but his title isn't really this, but it's going to be more of a partner ops engineer or an ecosystem automation engineer to help them with the leads and help them with the process, because it's a different skill set from the typical partner person that we've seen. That's number one. I also kind of see a shift in the PRM tools, and we have one of our friends, of the and a friend of the podcast, but I see the PRM tools shifting, and this came out of that call with Delia. I see them shifting out of being a partner portal and becoming more of a workflow engine plus agents. It's going to be a workflow process plus agents kind of thing. I just, and again, it's just something that I'm seeing, right? It's just my prediction. And my third prediction is, I think you're going to start to see the attach rate and partner involvement tracking start to track up and also become more consistent because of
I would
AI.
agree. Totally agree. So, all right. Well, with that, another great show. And again, you reach out to us if you have ideas on a topic you'd like us to talk about, or maybe even be a guest. So, well, Jeff, till the next one, thanks again. Appreciate
Absolutely,
you.
man.
And we'll see you soon.